everyone.
Hello.
Alan and Aisha here, and it's a beautiful morning on the canal. Perfect morning, in fact. Early September. The water's still and quiet and tranquil. Beautiful. And many of you have asked to get an update from us on our water filtration system. So that is what this episode is all about. Okay, so...
Yeah, well, how about we just take people through a quick summary of what the setup was and how we've adjusted it to where we are now.
Okay, let's do that then.
Here we go.
Okay, so let's just look down first of all, see the blue hose. Okay, so that goes in the canal, all right? And there's a little filter right on the front of that. Over there.
Into the canal.
Yeah, okay. And then you have the pump. Let's have a look at the pump then. That is an Italian pump. It's 12 volt. And that pumps water up from the canal through the blue pipe. And it goes through 5 filters. Okay, 55, 1 micron, getting finer and finer. And then the hydrocarbons and metals at the end. And that was our original setup. Great theory, great idea, but we did experience some problems. So, Aisha, do you want to kind of just run through what some of the problems were that we had?
Well, the key problem really we discovered when we hit the hotter weather, because around about here we had an accumulator tank. Okay, so this is a small tank, about 18 litres, and it was sitting before the first lot of filters. It's now down under here. Here we go, that's what it looks like. Because it was up top, it was heating up quite a lot, and because it was heating up, bacteria were forming in it. So even though it was going through our wonderful filtration system and into the second accumulator tank down below, because it had been rather warmed up, we were getting this bacteria growth and getting a little bit of a smell off the water. I did a quick test with one of the water testing kits that you can buy, and discovered it was indeed showing that bacteria of some kind were present in the water. So we then had a rethink, got back in touch with wonderful John, who's been amazing, has just come out so many times to dicker and adjust, and he and we decided that we would, after all, add what we didn't have in the beginning, which was a UV filter light. Now, I know we're probably going to get a gazillion comments from people saying you should have had a UV in the first place. We were hoping it wasn't necessary, but I would say on reflection, it is. So that was the first thing we added. Just to really add that additional filtering system.
What does the UV light do then?
So that filters, as I understand it, bacteria, things like E. coli and things like that at a much, much finer level than a filter.
Is it a filter? Isn't it that the UV light actually kills the bugs?
Yes, that's one way to put it. Yes, yeah, absolutely. Okay. So it's not literally filtering; it's actually killing it off as the water goes through that UV tube. Okay. But we did add one other thing. If you've been following our previous video, you would know that we had the water just going directly into our pipe work. It didn't go via the tank. We were hoping to be able to bypass the tank, because potentially tanks themselves can be a place where bacteria can grow.
So you're talking about the original tank,
right?
150 gallons on
right, not these accumulators that we've got here, but the main tank, which is behind this wall where I'm pointing to at the moment, or if you like, if I bring the camera up top, underneath the deck of the bow. There you go, that's the entrance to the tank. So what we decided this time to do is also filter our water into the tank, because that did have one benefit, and that is we can add chlorine to the tank. So it was a belts and braces move, really. We wanted to both add chlorine and push the water through a UV just to make sure all those nasty little bacterias were killed off. So that's the new setup that we've got at the moment. I'm just waiting for the chlorine tablets to turn up before I do another water test to see how that's doing. And we will let you know how that pans out. Yeah. Hopefully, fingers crossed, that will do the trick.
So, fingers crossed, these adjustments will really make our system super duper. We will have bacteria-free water and an endless supply of water from the canal. Perhaps just one other thing to mention is that it does require regular vigilance. You have to check the filters, especially the 50 micron filter, which is, if you like, the front line of the battlefield against stuff in the water. And what we found is that different points on the canal have different levels of quality of water. So when we were at Bull's Bridge, the water, for whatever reason, was filthy there, and that 50 micron filter got really black very quickly. So, you know, you're going to be able to maintain this. So in some ways, there's the old system's very simple. You fill up your tank, and then you've got to find a water point somewhere or other, and fill up again every whatever it is, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, depending on your usage level. You know, that's simple in a way, but it is a hassle. So we are trying this system here. It does require more regular vigilance, if you like.
I think that's a really good point. It's not maintenance free. That's certainly something that we've discovered. Alan's right. You do have to keep an eye on those filters. And really the only way that you kind of know that the filters need changing is when you see the water flow start to get slower and slower coming out of your tap. And that's probably the first thing that you would want to check. Is one of my filters clogged? And we've really found a big difference depending on where we are moored, what quality of water that we get. Of course, the other thing that we now have to keep an eye on, that we've got a UV light, is that itself also needs cleaning. John thought about every 3 months you would want to take that out and give it a good clean, and they're very delicate, so you have to be careful not to break it. And I think probably certainly need replacing once a year, if not more often. And also the other thing that we've got is, Lucy's joining in.
Here's one other thing that we've got to keep an eye on. She's now about twice the size she was, and very feisty.
Indeed.
All right,
and for some reason loves the water tank cupboard area. Yeah, that's the other thing I was saying. The other thing, of course, in terms of maintenance that we will now have is adding chlorine to our tank and working out how much to add as well. From my own research, it's measured in something called ppm, so I think that stands for parts per million. So that's how much chlorine that you would use, is parts per million. And I think, please correct me if I'm wrong, anybody watching this, but I think water coming out of the municipal tap systems is 5 ppm. So we're looking to sort of replicate that within our tank. We certainly don't want it any more chlorinated than it needs to be, because of course when you use that water, that goes back into the canal, and you don't want that to be adding any high levels of chlorine to the canal itself. Of course, water that any boater gets from water points is also chlorinated as well, so it's not that that is without chlorine, but we're looking to replicate that. So I'd say those are certainly some maintenance things that you have to do: checking the filters, cleaning the UV light, adding chlorine to the tank. And it's not without cost as well. Those filters, depending on which one it is, they need to be replaced.
They do.
Well, I mean, I think the first 3, maybe we found they've lasted anything from 2 weeks to 2 months, depending on which filter and where we are. But those last 2, the hydrocarbon and
the metal
one, I think, it's
they're
about
more expensive.
about £100, and you certainly would want to do that at least once a year.
The UV light is expensive as well.
Yeah, and that needs replacing once a year. And of course, eventually your pump is going to fail, as pumps tend to. I mean, we're certainly hoping we get a few years out of the pump, but that itself, it's probably about 350, that pump. So yeah, just bear in mind there are costs, and there is maintenance.
And also people have asked as well, well, what is the cost of installation? Well, it depends on your system, but I would say think between £1,500 and £2,200.
Oh yeah, maybe even more. But yes, you know that, unless you want to have a go yourself. But that was kind of beyond our ability, I would say. But having said all that, the big question is, are we still happy that we had it put in? And we really are. It is really nice not to have to worry about how much water that you're using. I think it's lovely just to run the tap when you're washing up without having to be too careful. It's lovely to be able to have a shower when you want it and a bath when you fancy it. So we would still absolutely say we love it. We're happy we invested in it. And yeah, I would recommend it.
Yeah. And yeah, it is a hassle finding a water point, and I remember a number of times we've actually reversed back a long way to go back to a water point, because we know the next water point is a long way on. So you want to avoid that, because reversing a long way in a narrowboat is not easy.
You're a 70-footer like us.
Yes.
However, I think for many people it's not a hassle to fill up your tank. So there's pros and cons, I guess, for both systems. So it's really what works for you. Yeah. But I think for us, what works for us is a little bit of luxury, and we don't mind
and
that.
Taking that pressure off. If you're a constant cruiser, really you want, you know, there's a lot to think about all the time, because things are always going wrong with your boat, and you always have to be checking things, and you really want to make life as easy as possible. So otherwise you spend a lot of time every week just maintaining your boat and your fuel supplies and everything else. So it does make life easier in the long run. So we're happy that we've done it. But I think probably another update after this. Be a few months, but we will give you guys another update as well. And we'll do that extra water test and let you know how that comes up. I'm hoping that's nice and clear. But we have other things that we're up to today. We're off to get our boat blacked. It's been 2.5 years since our video on blacking it ourselves. So I'm feeling another video, and that might be interesting. Although this time we're getting someone else to do it. We will maybe talk a little bit more about that another time. But if you guys haven't seen it, watch our YouTube video, and it's called Why You Should Never Ever Live on a Narrowboat.
And if you've ever blacked a boat yourself, you'll understand the title.
Yes. And you'll see us with splodges of blacking all over ourselves, and you know, it's a mucky job. So that's why we're getting somebody else to do it for us this time. But we'll let you know how that goes. Have a fabulous week or so until we speak again. Okay, so it's goodbye from me. And goodbye from me. And goodbye from our mad cat, who's somewhere, you can hear her in the background somewhere, running around. Take care. Bye-bye.